Oh, now I think we're streaming.
Oh, yeah.
Something just happened at the top of my screen.
Yep.
Timer.
All right.
Who's dinging?
Not me. All right. Here we go. Finally. See if this works.
The presentation of the Boston Podcast Network. Podcasting is a great way for professionals to tell their story. Find out how you can get started at pod617.com.
Are you ready? It's showtime! From the Pod 617 studios in Westwood, Massachusetts, it's the Boston Podcast with David Yaz and a rotating cast of characters from Pod 617, the Boston Podcast Network. This is our city.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Boston Podcast. My name is Dave. If you like our show, I encourage you to follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your pods. Alongside me, my sidekick and colleague, Paula Constance. Paula, yes, how are you doing today?
Great to be here, Dave.
Well, listener, I don't know if you're listening on audio or video, but we are trying out a new thing here. It's a live stream edition of the Boston Podcast. It might be a huge disaster because technology is hard to get used to sometimes. Newfangled app we're using called Meetin, Meetn, and this will either be a great endorsement for Meetin or 1 out of 5 stars on a Yelp review. We'll see how it goes. But most importantly, our guests today, Dr. Dennis Becker and Robin Galinsky, they are the authors of a wonderful book called Outwitting the Manipulator. They are the co-hosts of the Outwitting the Manipulator podcast that appears here on Pod 617 and throughout all podcast apps. Let's welcome them to the show. And I feel like we've been hanging with them for an hour already because we were trying to get everything set technologically. Anyway, Dennis, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thanks for asking. Hi, Paula. Hi, Robin.
Hello, everybody.
Robin and Dennis are in the same household, but not in the same room because that's the way things go these days. But this is how we're testing this out. So we're going to talk about the podcast. We're going to talk about the book. Robin, start with you. If you had to give sort of the thumbnail sketch of why people should be interested in Outwitting the Manipulator, what would that be?
Well, I would say it reduces all the pain and suffering in their life.
Wow. Okay. Thanks for listening to the Boston Podcast, everybody.
That's it. All we need to know. Bye for now.
And all your problems will be solved. That is a great you must be a good headline writer, Robin, because that was very good. Dennis, what can you add? What can you add to that?
It will help you learn how to deal with living with Robin. No. Other than that.
Yep.
No, we take it very seriously, obviously, Dave. And manipulation is such a horrible thing for people to be experiencing. And so, what we want to do is we want to help people learn how to deal with manipulation as it is happening. And that's the different thing about this book. We are talking about not what happened before or afterwards, but as you are being manipulated, what should you be doing? That's what this book is about.
We've got an example of what Dennis is talking about. Here's an excerpt from the podcast. Let's take a listen.
I had a client once who had a really interesting technique. She said, whatever she wanted to develop the mindset of confidence. Whenever she began to have some self-doubt about, oh, you can't, no, this isn't going to, you're not. She would walk over to a mirror, look at her own eyes in the mirror, and shout, stop. And this was enough to make her say, no, don't think that way. Think of confidence. So technique.
That's very effective. Here's how you know how effective that is. Try looking at your own eyes in the mirror and saying something to yourself that's positive. The very fact that you find that enormously difficult to do is evidence of its power.
I was just in the bathroom earlier looking at myself in the mirror and saying, Dave, you're good enough and you're strong enough and you're going to have a great podcast today. So,
gosh darn it, people like you.
Gosh darn it, people like
you. Right. That's right. Well, starting with you, Robin, both of you made good points in that excerpt. Robin, what you said is absolutely true. I think it's hard to look in the mirror and say anything. You feel embarrassed, and it's just you in the mirror. Why is that?
I know, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
I think they say the windows are the eyes of the soul, and I think when you look in the mirror into your own eyes, you're looking into your own soul. Not to be too woo-woo about it, but something comes from our eyes, or else we wouldn't spin around in a crowded bar and know someone's staring at us and find someone staring at us. So they emit some kind of energy, and I'm not somebody who needs a scientific study to tell me something's real. I need a lived experience. It's proven over and over again. So there are people out there who it's not real until somebody scientific, analyzes it and tells them it's real. But I don't need that myself. I think there's something to it. Eventually, science catches up with our lived experience. But I think almost everyone I've ever talked to has had that experience. First of all, the difficulty of being able to do it. Like you said, I'm glad you experimented with it, David, because it's not easy.
Right.
It feels odd, uncomfortable, weird. And also, I think almost everyone's had experience of feeling like someone's nearby or someone's looking at you, and you turn around and they are.
That's
So
right.
What is that?
That's right. So, yeah, Dennis, this sounds like this advice that you got from someone becomes part of another arrow in your quiver, right? Is it important to have little techniques like that when you're in a moment of possible manipulation? Or sounds like maybe just for kind of confidence generally. What do you think?
Just for kind of confidence generally, it does help, yes. But certainly when you are in the, you're in the sight of a manipulator, and you usually know it. And if you do know it, these techniques are very, very important to have. And the interesting thing about your question is manipulations come 2, 3, 4 at a time. So you have to have techniques that you can respond with almost as quickly as that. So very important to have these little things, just like this woman. She would just look at herself and say, stop. That was enough. But then
You're programming your brain.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're doing it all the time to you. So you do need these kind of techniques to be handy for you at any time.
Let's take a look at one more excerpt from the podcast.
You're 100% responsible for your own thoughts, words, and actions. And as an adult, you always have a choice. You have a choice of what to do, what to think, what to say. You have a choice of what to feel. And not only do you have all of that, you have a personal responsibility as a member of the human race to do your very best and wake up.
We don't want you to feel like a victim, but you're always going to be a
Victim
target.
is a mindset. So you never want to have that mindset, ever, ever, ever. We're in control, and we're giving you the tools and the techniques so that you could stay in control.
That's exactly right. That's why we've written the book, why we're going to continue to be here with you. We'll talk more in detail about how we can be helpful to you and what you can do with all of the things that we've been talking about this season. And as we get into season 2, we'll have some guests here who are actually going to share their experiences and the techniques that they have found. And it's going to get even more intense because we know that's where you live.
I've long been saying that listening is a lost art and critically important to so many things in life. Robin, tell us why listening is important, particularly when you're trying to outwit the manipulator.
Because they're using everything at their disposal. They're using proximity, they're using context, they're using facial expressions, they're using micro expressions. And if you aren't paying attention, it's going into your subconscious. When you're paying attention by using all of your active listening, you can be more conscious of what's happening and therefore know how to respond so that you let them know that it's happening.
Dennis, your thoughts on that?
Well, listening, if you think about it, that's a stupid old thing we've all heard. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that you listen twice as much as you talk. Okay, well, there's some truth in that in a way. Listening is a sort of a forgotten skill. Most of us have taken some sort of speaking course or class or something at some point in schooling. How many have ever taken a listening course? Not many people, not very few actually. But listening is at least half of what you do during the course of your day, and in some cases, much more than what you do. So being able to be a better, and you can learn, a better and more effective listener is extremely important, especially when, like with manipulation, you're ferreting out the things that are, and the things that are being said, the things that are being done to you, with you, about you. If you're not capable of paying attention and listening like that, you're going to be more of a target every time.
Well, it's data mining. And the manipulator is always data mining. This is how they get all the leverage. So if you've got to be data mining too, so that you can see what's going on.
All of these devices and much more in the book, by the way, which if you're watching on video streaming right now at the bottom of your screen, you can click and find out about the book, Outwitting the Manipulator, Protecting Yourself in Real Time. When you're listening is that going to provide you clues that you're being manipulated? Because I tend to think we've been working on your podcast for probably the better part of a year now anyway. So I feel like I've learned a thing or two. And part of the rub here is that maybe you don't know you're being manipulated, right? If you know, then
Absolutely.
you can bear arms and get ready to go and get ready to rumble, or maybe just see someone for what it's worth. But Robin, why don't you take that one first? Like, how do you know, and does listening provide a weapon in that dynamic?
Listening is an essential skill that you have to develop. But how you know is people usually get a feeling that just things aren't, you just get a sick feeling that something's not right. Now, a really good manipulator, it's going to take a lot of time for that to catch up with you. And also when that like sick feeling comes up and then you start pushing back on something or asking questions, the real manipulator will frost it over with like thick, delicious frosting. And so it'll be subverted again. And they're quite good. So we another tool that we teach people to use is journaling, but a very specific way to journal, because you have to be able to identify a pattern with manipulators over time.
So, Dennis, same question, but should we constantly be watching out for moments where we might be manipulated?
Well, it'll drive you crazy if you don't. And if you do, it'll drive you crazy. So it's almost a loss. On the other hand, when you become an effective listener, you begin to discern between and amongst the kinds of things that people are saying to you. And you will feel uncomfortable with certain people. You will feel, is that right? You will feel uncertain about certain things that you were sure of before. Chances are at that time, there's a manipulation taking place. So that's why journaling becomes so important. If you think you've heard something or experienced something that's a little bit odd, write it in your notes. Over time, no question, patterns will appear. And as soon as those patterns begin to appear, you can begin to protect yourself in real time. So you don't want to mistake, friendly efforts to sort of convince you to go for Chinese food this weekend with manipulation. Because there's manipulation of all kinds, but the one that we're trying to help you with is the one that is designed to hurt you, control you at any cost. And listening is a very important part of that.
I want to add on to that. So manipulators, we're talking about manipulators, a basket of people that could be sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists. They are typically people who don't know how to engage any other way. It's their primary way of engaging with people. Everything is win-lose mindset with them. We are all capable of manipulation. If you talk to any one of my brothers and sisters, they will tell you I'm a master at it myself. And I did very well in real estate negotiating, and I wouldn't call it manipulation, but I did set my clients up for success by doing good reconnaissance. So these skills, I'm able to write about it because I've been on both sides of it. Now, because I've studied it and I know what it's like to be at the mercy of it, I don't allow myself to do it. I end up busting myself. And that's another way the book could be helpful to people, because we're all capable of manipulation. We all do it. I had a client who asked me to do something and I didn't want to do it. It was like a volunteer type thing. And I said, I guess I could struggle through that and get it done. And then I said to her, I'm sorry. I said, that was manipulative. The fact that I chose the word, I'll struggle through that, was to manipulate you. She immediately backed off and said, oh my God, forget it. And I knew she would do that. But I felt bad because I knew I was doing that on purpose. So it's a constant thing, but it's the people that we're talking about in the book are the people who cause a lot of harm. I wasn't even kidding. Like every client I've had, and we're communication trainers who said that they're suffering, it's always been at the mercy of a manipulator. So
One of the good things, Robin, that I know about you is that you are such a good coach. You are so good with seeing that, hearing that in people, that they keep coming back to you and you have a lot of success with it. So you really need to be proud of all the good things that you are able to do with your clients. It's really nice. And I'm glad to be associated with you.
He's I think he's manipulating you right now, Robin, just so
he loves to.
he doesn't have to do the dishes tonight.
He loves to do
But you
that.
see how easy it is to slip that stuff in. And if you're not paying attention,
He can be quite good too. If he wants to be.
it's really
and
easy for people to slip that kind of a thing in.
That's our
And
backup plan. We're going to start a cult.
We're
If
gonna
nothing else works, we're going to start a cult.
start a cult, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a comment from the audience. Question: can manipulation be used for the good? So writes Pedro in Boston. Dennis, you want to take that one?
Okay, so
Pedro, according to
obvious-
Napoleon Dynamite, but
there's obviously a need for a clear definition here as to what the word good means. Let's take, for example, most parents would not say it's evil to get their kids to bed early on Christmas Eve. Okay? For reasons who were but they say what? They say Santa Claus will be here soon, so you got to get into bed.
Yeah.
Manipulation, for crying out loud. So we
Right.
all do it. And there are some things that, you don't have to be an evil manipulator in order to be doing it. Yes, there is some, I'm hesitant to say good, but there are some reasons that are not necessarily nefarious that people use manipulation for. Absolutely.
Paula, do you have a question for the gang here?
Yeah, my question is, if you're just out in, public and you have regular conversations with people, how aware are you, because this is your specialty, how aware are you when a manipulator comes into your sphere? Can you identify them right away?
oh yeah,
Usually pretty quick. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Robin,
can.
Go ahead.
well, I just have a little story about that, but it's, I could tell. There was a guy who came and plunked down next to me at a hair salon. And just by the way he walked in and the way he looked around and the way he was dressed, I mean, of course, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I just thought, he's got some swagger. He thinks he's something. And I thought, no, I'm a friendly person, social person. He plunked down next to me. And then as I started talking to him, everything was about him. And he was bragging about how he moved from New York and how he had all this incredible designer furniture and how amazing it was and how these Floridians don't know anything. And then he was talking about his $5,000 desk that these guys moved into his apartment and they didn't even know the value of it and they hadn't even heard of it. And because I'm me,
Yeah.
I'm not very nice sometimes, by the way. I just looked at him and I go, wow. It sounds like you might be more comfortable in New York where people really understand all the cool stuff you have. and the reason I know he was a manipulator was, so again, that's thwarting. And a lot of people would feel uncomfortable by saying that, but
Right.
You can get to the point where you're more comfortable with it. He literally got up and went outside without a word and stood outside the salon waiting for his appointment. There was only like 2 seats in the waiting room. He was so...
You crushed his soul, Robin.
I did.
Now,
I'm
will you-
surprised
will
I
you-
haven't been punched in the face by a man yet because I've crushed a lot of male souls when
Well-
I was younger and cuter. But
Well, you wonder whether someone like that is capable of learning. Could he have learned something from somebody finally?
oh no, that's a
Yeah.
slippery slope. You don't ever want to go there.
Yeah, it's a good question. And maybe that guy did learn something that day. We don't know for sure. But
We
when
don't
you're
wanna
talking
take it
about
on.
manipulation, no, they won't learn. They don't learn. As much as you want to say, oh, I should try to help. No.
You know what his takeaway
Don't
would
waste your
be?
time.
His takeaway would be not learning to taking responsibility, personal responsibility. His takeaway would be, that's the last time I hit on a middle-aged biatch. I'm going to go for the 20 somethings who buy what I'm saying more.
But
That would be his takeaway.
Paula, though, to answer your question from my perspective, Paula, as Robin said, we've been doing communication coaching for decades, really, for a long time. A lot of experience with this. So can I recognize a manipulator right away? Probably not the very first thing, but the second thing he says, I can know.
Yeah.
The first one, I take people for where they are, and you're nice, and I'll take that. I accept that. But then when the second one comes, and then certainly a third, there's a pattern already for me. So I can pick it up pretty quickly. At least I think I can. Try.
Yes.
Well, before we go, we typically do a round of what we call good stuff on this show, where we recommend something good to the audience. And because we have limited time today, only one of us is going to do that. And it's me, because it's my show. Sorry. But in truth be told, I forgot to play the good stuff jingle. Let's do that. What the heck? It's fun.
Oh, that's the good stuff.
Now, the reason I'm going to recommend this TV series, which is called Paul T. Goldman and is on Peacock, is because it is all about manipulation. And it just came out, so you guys probably haven't seen it yet. But I'm going to show a little clip, and then I'll describe to you why this is the show for you guys. Here we go.
Okay.
I'm a regular guy that got caught up in extraordinary circumstances. This story is as accurate as it is unbelievable. I couldn't make this up. It happened to me.
Paul, is this what happened?
It's all been put in the book. I'm a single dad raising my son, Johnny. I always brought Johnny with me on my first dates. Then I came across a woman, family-oriented, stay-at-home mom. Audrey?
Let's cut there. How did that feel, Paul?
He's the main guy. He's gonna play himself.
Guilty as charged, Your Honor.
Wow, that's weird.
Action.
Shortly after we were married,
She was trying to fleece Paul out of money.
What'd you do?
I'm getting a psychic reading.
I'm Terry J. I'm a pet psychic. I'm sensing that this is bigger than we think.
What?
I said that.
That started the discoveries of her secret double life.
She had a secret phone and she had secret addresses.
This is the spot.
This woman must be stopped.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Well, let's stop it there.
Oh, I cannot wait to see that.
You have to watch it. I'm telling you, and now in watching that trailer after I already started watching the show, the trailer, it can be confusing. So the whole show can be confusing. It's now being called one of the most brilliant and most confusing shows ever. So the guy you heard from, Paul T. Goldman, not actually his real name. That's kind of a minor detail. His real name is Paul Finkelstein. But that's the guy who this happened to. So in real life, this guy was manipulated by his wife, and his wife never really wanted to be married. She basically was in it for the money. He discovers that she's having this relationship with this other guy. He jumps to some conclusions that she's up to no good. But what sets this apart from other documentaries is what you saw. He has such delusions of grandeur that he decides he wants his life to be a movie. So the documentarian does two things. He follows him around and he, gets his thoughts and has him tell his story, but simultaneously he's shooting a movie about what happened using actors. And this guy says he's going to play himself. So they let him play himself. So you have this unusual thing of he's a terrible actor, even though he's playing himself. And then you've got these Dennis Haysbert was in that. You might know him from 24 or Heat or those Allstate commercials. And he's acting as well as he always does. And then you got this guy. But I don't know if it was clear from the trailer, and I'm not giving anything away, I promise. It soon becomes clear that this guy might not be telling the truth about everything that happened to him. He might be exaggerating the truth. And
I love it. It's like layered, multi-layered.
Yeah, that's exactly. The director, in what is the true stroke of genius that I don't think anyone's ever done this before, is letting the story unfold. And part of the story is this guy may be full of shit.
Oh.
And he is the subject of the documentary, but he doesn't necessarily know what's happening. So so you got two layers of manipulation there. You got in real life, he did get swindled by his wife, but now he's perhaps getting swindled a little bit. So anyway, and it's the director who
three layers.
What's the third one?
Three layers of manipulation. So he supposedly was swindled by his wife,
right?
But he's manipulating the director into making him star. And the director's really manipulating him by him thinking it's an actual documentary when he's really making fun of him.
Yep. And the documentarian is, I don't know if fair is the word, but he puts in little signals within the documentary that he knows what he's doing. The documentarian knows that he's exposing that this guy is kind of full of baloney. So,
I love it.
So so it's your homework assignment, Dennis and Robin, because you're going to have a field day with this show.
What's the name of it again, Dave? What's the name of it?
Paul T. Goldman.
Paul T. Goldman on Peacock.
Oh, that's the name of it. Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
That's the name of it.
Good.
And
That's
it's
a good one.
Yeah, it's I think 6 episodes in. They release new episodes on Sunday. So this morning I woke up, got a cup of coffee, and watched the latest episode because I'm like addicted to it. Anyways, so we thank Robin and Dennis for joining us. Of course, time does not permit us to get into all the techniques that they can recommend to avoid being manipulated right there in the moment. There's a button at the top of the screen here that says Contact Robin and Dennis. That'll take you to the website. If you're signed into the live stream, as soon as we're done, it'll take you to the website as well. And it's Outwit in real time. But before we go, maybe a little not prediction, a preview for our listeners of these live streams that we're going to do as I should have said this at the beginning. I'm a terrible producer. Paula, fire me. Season 1 of the podcast is in the books, and you can get it at Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your pods. Season 2 will be a living, breathing thing on YouTube channels, and we'll get you all those links. Tell us why you're excited about that, I guess. Robin, start with that. Start with you, please.
I think I'm so excited about it because we are going to be doing it live. That's very different than pre-recorded. And also I'm excited about it because we're going to be interviewing people and having people share their stories.
Dennis?
I'm excited about it because not only because it's live, but because it's real. This will be, we expect, somewhat raw at times, but we're going to be talking to folks who really want to tell their story, and they'll tell their real story. We're not going to edit this in any way. So you'll be hearing the actual pains and privileges of folks who call in, and we're going to try to be helping them right there on the air. So it's a live, real experience of how it could work for you by hearing other people go through it with us.
I love it. Paul and I talk about this all the time, is that you need to know what your podcast is about. And you guys obviously have a great relationship. You have great sort of rhythm between you as podcasters. But a lot of people come to us. We say, oh, my friend and I, we're so funny. And people say you should have your own podcast. So we're going to do a podcast that's just going to be called Wendy and Jane and all their shenanigans. Well, there's so many podcasts out there that, to borrow a line from Seinfeld, podcasts about nothing. This is something that not in yours is even better than a niche podcast that we say it's got to be niche, right? So if you do a niche podcast about, Star Trek or ceramics or cycling, that's great. But for yours, it's a niche because it's about something very specific. But this is useful to anyone, any day of their lives. Am I right?
Yeah. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why we're excited about it. It's real.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah.
Because we're helping people reduce a severe pain point. Yeah. And that's very rewarding for us. Yeah.
And another thing I'll add just quickly as a descriptive for the book and the show is we're doing the whole thing, as you may be able to tell here, in what we refer to as shirt sleeve English. So it's not a lot of reports and studies and research. We've done all of that and read the books and so forth, but we're talking to folks in street shirt sleeve English.
Right. I think that's every episode that you've done so far. I've picked up 1 or 2 things to use in real life, in your relationships, in business, and everything. That's what's so cool about it. They're not like therapists who you go and you sit down and you pour out all your problems and you say, what should I do? And they say, well, what do you think? No, tell me what to do. You tell people what to do.
I love to tell people what to do, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And
she
people
does,
who know me are going to laugh that I just said that.
He does.
I really do.
Well, can you tell me to close out the show now, Robin? May I?
You need to close the show out right now, Dave.
Oh, my God. I don't know if I'm being manipulated, but I better close the show. Thank you, everyone, for listening. The website is the best information I can give you to learn more about Robin and Dennis, and it's outwitinrealtime.com. But check out the book, check out the podcast, and check your listings on that website for the future dates of these live streams. We want to see you here, and you can participate. You can put notes in the chat, and we'll talk to you and all that. For Robin and Dennis and Paula, my name is Dave. I'm just a guy from Boston. If you're not from Boston, you must be the other guy. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time.